All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It is time for us to go over the chapters of One Piece we get every month. We had 3 chapters in the month of May, along with some breaks. But we're really getting into the chaos of Emu descending upon Elbaf, and we're also getting Brook's backstory. So let's begin, shall we? Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here. Welcome back to One Piece Reflections, where, as I've stated, we go through the chapters of One Piece throughout the month and discuss it and see where the story is going from here. I want to apologize to everyone yesterday, to my vocal volumes from yesterday. Though I fixed my audio issue, where I'm no longer peaking crazily as I was before, I also forgot that the volume for my voice was turned down. So I apologize ahead of time. I. It's like, oh, I fixed everything. Everything sounds good. But then I forgot that I turned the volume down on Streamlabs, and that's basically what I use to basically record everything now. So apologies for that. But in the month of May, and also a good thing is that I can have chat over to one side on the screen and the images of the manga on the other screen, so I don't have to worry about pulling up my phone to double check things or to have chat sitting up on my stand. I can essentially just have everything set up this way because of my extra wide. So the chapters we got is chapters 1182 all the way to 1184. And apparently we are on break right now from 1184. But the good thing about 1184 is that it basically sets us up with even more Brook story. Because 1183 did that. That's where we got the start of it. But 1184 just sets us up with like a backstory that's almost similar to Law's in terms of people who are beneficial to those who save them. Like we saw that with Law with Cortisone, and we have the same thing with Brook and Reuven, but we'll speak more about that as we continue. So, in chapters 1182, Zaza, we have Loki, after having tried to blast Emu with Thorheim, Emu is completely fine. With Emu going, "Need hugger, to think that I would see thee again in this world. Traitor." And Emu continues to hack and cough. Like it is loud hacking and coughing. Like the actual words of him coughing, the sound effects of him coughing is taking up a good portion, is like it's meant to be outwardly loud. So him being in this form is actually harming him. Now, mind you, he puts on airs as if he's invincible. But apparently being in this form, even the very nature of him transforming into this state, it showed that it caused him great pain. And the longer he's been in this form, he's been hacking and coughing more and more. So there's the same way that Luffy had a time limit when he was using Gear 4 against Doflamingo. The same applies to Emu, it would seem. And he has a time limit as well. Whereas with Luffy, he gets tired and he's shortness of breath, but Emu is just actively coughing as if he's literally dying while he's doing this. So he goes, and then while Loki is flying towards Emu, he's also bringing, a thunderstorm with snow along with him. It's like it's literally following him. It's akin to that you would see from an awakened user, where they affect the awakened paramecia user, where they start to affect the area around them. Whereas here, Loki is literally bringing a thunderous snowstorm, thunderous and lightning snowstorm with him, and it just follows him. It just starts up. The longer he's in this need hogger state, the more it continues to snow. So it's like he literally changes the weather just by being this giant black dragon. And Emu notices, indeed, snow. Lightning caused by an impact with ice. Thy affinity for one another was always great, Ragnir. Also, Lothar, hi, you're at work and you're slacking off? I'm gonna let you know now, If you get in trouble, it ain't my fault. So thou stayed as thou were in days past, waiting for a new master to come along. How familiar thy sight is. And then we have Ragnar, who gets the formal introduction. Hammer, Ragnar, squirrel, squirrel, fruit, mythical type, model, ice squirrel, Ratatosker. It is your fault? No, it ain't. I didn't make you click on the video. I did not do that at all. I did not do that at all. I didn't make you do nothing. You ain't gonna pin this on me. But in this instance, when we get, Ice Squirrel Ratatosker Ragnar introduced, it starts blowing this big mound of ice in front of it. And then Loki charges up Thorheim and shoots straight into it for a combo attack called Ragna Quint Arrow, which basically causes his entire breath to split into multiple bullets. And when that happens, Emu brings up a giant ring. Like, I want to say it's the same one he had on his back. He takes that same old Omen ring on his back, puts it above him, called Gazing Eclipse. And then it just rains down, basically, if you ever played Mario, these things are boos. They're essentially boos, but they're, imps. These are boo imps. These are imp boos. These are demon boos. And they just rain down in order to launch towards Loki, causing numerous explosions over the landscape and on top of Loki himself, not only deflecting his breath, but also trying to damage him as well. And Loki just glares at Emu as all of these explosions just envelop the forest that they're fighting in. Like one part of Elbaf that they're fighting in. There's just so many explosions. Emu would be so cool as a playable character in a future Pirate Warriors game. But while that's happening, Bonnie sees the fires, in the distance. But Lilith is keeping tabs on her, telling her, like, don't go too far. It's like, I'm your guardian now. I'd never let you do such a thing as far as, like, go out and interact in these fights. And mind you, Sanji is still being tended to because he got one shot by Emu. Because Lilith and Bonnie were the ones looking after him. So he wakes up. Actually, Lilith explains he's clearly the superior of the Holy Knights of God, but he's not one of the 5 elders. So despite all of Vegapunk's knowledge, Vegapunk Lilith doesn't know that Emu is the true ruler of the world. In a massive organization lasting 800 years, it's only natural that power struggles will breed deeper and deeper darkness, which would mean, and before Lilith even finishes the statement, Sanji wakes up and gets up immediately. And Bonnie is telling Sanji, hey, you're too hurt to get up. But Sanji says there's no other choice for me, Bonnie, because when Sanji was bodied by Emu, Killingham, pieced back together again and gloating over him, stands over saying, like, how's that, Sanji? I didn't even need to take you out myself. That cough was trying to come out. I didn't even need to take you out myself. Though it's incredible you're even alive right now. That goes, and I think we can thank Sanji's, slow transformation and awakened abilities during the events of Wano to really help hammer in the fact that had he not had those enhancements that were dormant in his body fully awakened right now, he might have died. Or been heavily incapacitated and might not be able to fight again. His overall toughness that increased during his fight with Queen literally helped him survive just merely getting kicked by Emu. But the scary thing is, just a kick from Emu was enough to incapacitate Sanji and make him unable to move at all. So, just a kick. So imagine what would have happened to Sanji if he didn't have that enhanced durability from his exoskeleton, basically just didn't activate during the events of Wano, and he gotten stronger since over time. Ever since then, Sanji might have been heavily incapacitated or dead, because Zoro himself got tossed aside by Emu as well. So it also speaks to just how strong Emu is. Because mind you, Queen was a very strong opponent for Sanji to fight during the events of Wano. But Sanji, I don't think he would have died. Uh, well, that's the reason why I said or. That's the reason why I said or. He would have been heavily incapacitated or died. But heavily incapacitated is more acceptable of the two, simply because we don't want Sanji to die at all. But it speaks to just how strong Imu is, where Queen, Sanji is strong and he was able to land some solid hits on Queen, but it wasn't until he started using it for Jamba that he really started to turn the tables and send Queen careening off of Onigashima and down to Wano down below. But Imu basically just toying with Zoro and Sanji as if they're basically nothing. And the fact that despite the many enhancements that Sanji has right now, increases in speed, increases in strength, and massive increases in durability, for him to be just essentially one shot shows you that Imu is definitely a significant threat, far greater than Zoro and Sanji have realized fully. But Killingham is standing over Sanji, going, I didn't even need to take you out myself, though it's incredible you're even alive right now. And while Killingham's walking away in his centaur state, like in his hybrid form, Sanji goes, where are you going? Back to my mission. Can't you see my rippling strength? Because he's been empowered by the omen given to him by Imu. Same thing with Summers. When they were gifted this omen, they were essentially given even more strength than they ever had before. Think about that for a second. One thing we learned about Imu and the power that he has is the ability for him to essentially give people increased strength in exchange for a portion of their lifespan. They gain unkillable bodies and incredible strength. They already are strong just based off of the covenant itself. But with these omens put on them, their strength has essentially quadrupled. Because later on, we see Summers basically take an entire ship, a ship meant to ferry giants, and just shoulder it and throw it down on the sea clouds as if it's nothing. So if we thought the strength gifted by covenants was something, Omen basically just says, oh yeah, these buffs can stack and grant people even more strength than before. Like we own some Jesus Burgess strong fruit type nonsense. So, he goes, can't you see my rippling strength? And proceeds to use Sanji as his own personal springboard to launch high up into the air, into the distance, saying, so long, sucker. He still hasn't given up on kidnapping those children. And despite the fact that Sanji hasn't even fully rested long enough for him to, not hold his shoulder because of how hurt he is, he just skywalks out of the way in order to chase him down. I can't let all of our battles be for nothing. This is the land that Usopp and Luffy have been dreaming about. I'm going to keep Elbaf safe. It's the land of giant, beautiful women, with both Bonnie and Lilith looking at him crazy like, okay, bro. Okay. All right. So, I pressed the button too quick. These buttons are kind of sensitive in terms of how quickly they can go. But we get back to the Isle Library in the same chapter, and we find out that there was a secret room in the back of the library that Biblo has personally taken all of the books inside of the library. Every last one. Despite the fires, Biblo was able to get every single book out. But because Saul is there with Robin going like, so around the back, there's a hidden tunnel ending in a secret room, and you managed to protect all the books from the fire. Well done, Biblo. And Saul's all like, yeah, I'm mighty glad, but because Robin says, thank you, I thought they were all lost. And then Saul says, yeah, I'm mighty glad too. And if I gotta admit it, I'm even more perplexed about you than before, Biblo. As is the rest of us, because we know next to nothing about Biblo except he's an owl that has the power to basically change the size of objects. That's it. We don't know how long Biblo has been here. We don't know anything about Biblo except it oversees the library itself. And the fact that it knew instantly to take all these books here, we don't even know if this thing can talk, because we've seen lots of animals that are capable of talking before. But this one, we don't know anything about Biblo, and that makes me really curious about who Biblo actually is and where they came from. So, yeah. But we cut from the library from this little brief moment, and we cut to the Sea Cloud port by the Western Village, and we get to right here, the very moment where I said that Somers picks up a giant ship and basically just throws the entire thing right at the port next to the Western Village. And then he goes, "Hey, hello, this is Somers speaking. Did I say Somers? I meant Super Somers. I found a giant ship to use. Bring the brats over here in 5 minutes." And then we're at the pub in the Western Village where Chopper is tending to all the giants who were harmed in Emu's opening attack, such as, Hadudin. He's been fully covered in bandages, like fully covered. And Stanzen is being tended to as well. And Gerd's fingers are being, bandaged up by Chopper, saying that the cut through your fingers was incredibly sharp and clean, so they should reattach, but it'll take months for a full recovery. So Gerd is unable to really do anything with her index fingers and her thumbs until her fingers are, fully attached again. But even then, it's going to take months of recovery for her to be back at... I ain't sick. What the heck is going on? Sorry about that. But it's going to take months for her to fully heal. And then, of course, we have some banter between her and Roto, and Roto's all like, "Oh, ultra rare Gerd." The fact that he keeps calling her ultra rare as if she's just another one of these little figures that he has. I don't think bro gets how to actually talk to people. So, but Gerd says, I would give you all of my fingers if I could. Don't. But when I saw how you risk your life for your brother Bjorn, it did make me think a bit better of you." And then he just falls backwards, squirting blood out of his nose. And then Gerd is just looking at him like, "I should not have said that to you." Then we get to Team Zoro, who's with Goldberg on the port side of the Western Village, with him going, "I appreciate it, Goldberg. Our legs can't carry us as fast. It's fine. I'm the only one on the new giant pirates who didn't get horribly wounded, because everyone did. Roto was hurt. Gerd was hurt. Actually, nah, he was the only one to not actually suffer any harm at all. But everyone got bodied except for Goldberg, and he's helping Zoro. I'm the only one on the new giant pirates who didn't get horribly wounded. Plus, Elbaf is in peril. I appreciate you helping us out. No worries, our captain's a friend's country is my country kind of guy. I can see why Hadodin thinks so highly of him. That black flame, though, it was transforming into steel bullets and bombs, and he clearly helped the Knights of God who are already here power up further. If we don't put an end to them soon, things will get out of hand. So, the thing is, when Emu blasted Zoro, it looked like he got blasted with just like this concussive flame, but the thing is, there's something on my eye, and it's bothering me. The thing is, when he hit Zoro, he hit him, he literally shot him. And I don't think I remember the last time that Zoro's actually been shot by someone successfully. I can't remember. Because oftentimes when people try to shoot at Zoro, he either deflects the bullets back at him, he deflects them away, or he slices them apart. But Emu just straight up shot Zoro point blank, because he pulled several bullets out of his body. Like, he pulled several bullets out of his shoulder. He got shot 3 times. But he says if we don't put an end to them soon, things will get out of hand. Oh, right. I pressed on the wrong window. There we go. Then we get to the port in the Western Village with Killingham screaming to Somers, "Somers, I messed up. I summoned the wrong thing." "Killingham, you didn't." "Yes, what I'm afraid of. I got overzealous." "You idiot. Now you're going to be freaking us out. But you can still control it, right?" "Yes, it's still a sleep tit, so I think so." "Well, what's done is done. Just hurry. We don't have time. What about Gunko?" "I saw her on the way here, but she's got to be dead, man." "What?" "So be it. Great Emu's body is not meant to withstand the outside. But even pushing past that, see, another thing that tells us that he cannot be outside of Marie-Joie for some unknown reason. Whether this is the downside to the Akuma no Mi, or if this is just signifying that he can't be outside for long, or it's just that him being in Marijois is literally the one place where he can be where it doesn't cause him harm the longer he's outside it. So, questions there that we haven't gotten answered yet. But even pushing past that, the strength we need and the strength we ought to destroy are both right here. Do not disappoint the Great One. We must live up to his expectations, Gillingham. Of course. Of course! Then we get to the Western Village, and it's suddenly raining. All of a sudden, it's just suddenly raining. And Gillingham goes, "Go capture those brats." And a giant watery arm comes in and grabs all of the children. Straight out of the very place where everyone is recovering after, they hugged their kids and got punctured by thorns when they fell off of the port in order to save them. They're still recovering, but they all get, surprised by this giant hand. And it starts to grab all the kids. And then Gillingham continues with, "We were born in a place so high it's above all the rain clouds. Water coming down from the sky, it's a mysterious terror. After the people of the D and Nika, it was the most common boogeyman they warned us about. That in the lower world, there's a monster called the Rain God that dumps water on top of your head, appearing to the rhythm of the prayers for rain. Oh, it's Zaza, freaky." And we see this giant body with multiple arms and covered head to toe in what looks like, no pun intended, raiment, like fancy regal raiment, veil covering her face and adornments across her hat, and like a watery halo behind her as well. She's got like 4 arms and causing a massive downpour that's sweeping through the entire village right now. And it's called What We're Afraid Of, God of Rain Zaza, Sleeptid. And what we're afraid of is basically referencing the Celestial Dragons. This is what the Celestial Dragons are afraid of. Now take them away. Get ready, Somers. We can sail at any time. And then while that's happening, Zoro sees Zaza in the distance, and while he's running, Goldberg is running in the opposite direction of it. We get Sanji, who's, coming up towards Goldberg and company, going, "Huh? Oh. No. Zoro says, uh-oh, something's going on at the village." And Goldberg says, "Should I turn around?" And then Zoro says, nah. And he looks at Sanji and goes, "Hey, get the job done right." And Sanji says, same thing to him. And that was the first chapter we got within May. So, just a couple notes here. We finally get the reveal of what Ragnir actually is. And it's a mythical type squirrel, Ice Squirrel Ratatosker of, classic Norse mythology. We get Emu hacking and coughing because apparently this form is taking his toll on his body. We get a new attack called Glazing Eclipse that allows him to rain down what seems to be an endless amount of explosive imp bombs towards his opponent. And we have a new attack from Loki called Ragna Quintero, which is a combo attack with him and Ragnir. And it basically turns his one singular blast into multiple bullets, which is why Emu used Gazing Eclipse. And basically, and not only that, but also the books have been saved. The books from Ohara have been fully saved by Biblo, hidden in a room behind the library. And since the library is no longer a threat of being set on fire, then all those books are safe now. Once things calm down, they'll be able to put those books right back. Somers drops a ship in, showcasing his incredible strength, even more than before, because it is so crazy. It's so crazy to me, because if I pull up the Akuma no Mi, and we go into detail about what the covenants are. Yeah. And that has its own page as well, which is good. Go over to covenants, and then we have the omens. Yo, D-Train, it's good to see you. I just finished going through 1182 as far as retelling what was going on, short form. We're talking about it now, and then we're going to move on to 1183 and then 1184, and then I'll let you guys go for today. This won't be terribly long, but I want to get all my thoughts out as soon as possible. All right, Akuma no Mi, Covenant, and Omen. So, what we know of a covenant with Emu is that in exchange for some lifespan, a person is giving an endlessly regenerating body, even down to the point where missing limbs and missing upper halves and torsos and legs and body parts can just instantly be healed again with literally no problem. It also gives this person. Oh, it was skipping. It was because it was still loading the pages. Sorry about that. It was skipping. Nah, we're good though. It is good though. This always happens with wikis. Wikis causes this sort of thing to happen, but it doesn't happen when I'm looking at YouTube videos with you guys, which I'm so happy about. But with covenants, you get an undying body and even more strength. Harold, who had a covenant, had even more strength to contend with even his own giant subjects as if they were nothing, with only Loki being the one capable of, actually harming him and actually killing him. But his strength was just monumental. Even for an ancient giant, his strength was incredible. But we also have omens, which essentially causes people to gain even more strength than they had as a Covenantee, like a massive boost in strength. Yeah, don't worry. I see it skipping because I keep trying to scroll down the page and it keeps wanting to load more stuff when it doesn't have to. So, going back to the Covenant. Let's see. Abilities. So, increase physical strength, describe as superhuman and uncanny strength, telepathy, immortality, and the abyss. But it's really the strength part that we want to pay attention to. People get like massive boosts in strength to where they're able to, contend with anything. But the funny thing is that despite the amount of, and the thing is, when we see the strength of people who have covenants, also keep in mind that every single Holy Knight that tried to go after Roger and his crew lost. So while their strength is vast with just a covenant alone, it isn't the end all beat all because Roger's crew never lost a fight to them. That's so great. I still think about that, and it's just so crazy how real that is. Roger's crew never lost a fight with the Holy Knights whenever they tried to show up and take Shanks when he was a baby. And they beat him every single time. These people who have inhuman strength beyond what they had before and the ability to just fully regenerate instantly, they always lost against the Roger Pirates. And the Roger Pirates didn't have, as far as we know, didn't have anybody who had devil fruit powers. Until, when Buggy ate the Chop Chop. But I believe, yeah, it was until Buggy ate the Chop Chop fruit. But everyone else, their top people, just straight strength. But then when we get over to the Omen, and all we know is that, additionally, by being placed as a ring around at least Covenantees like the Knights of God, their bodies are given, it keeps wanting to scroll, a boost in strength. Let me go ahead and exit out of these pages because they appear to be slowing things down while I'm trying to look just fine. Yeah, they're trying to. These pages. If you're saying that you've already loaded the page, when I'm scrolling down, you ain't got to load more of the pages anymore. What are you doing? But we see that the strength of those who are Covenantees after they've been given this Omen ring has increased exponentially to the point where simply picking up a ship meant to ferry giants is not even an issue. So that's a massive boost. We don't know if it has drawbacks, though. That's the thing. We don't know if it has drawbacks. Whether it's towards the Covenantees or whether it's towards Emu himself. But now they're on track to try and kidnap the kids again. And Killingham has unknowingly summoned Sleeptid based off of the fears of the celestial dragons themselves, because any phenomenon that takes place that requires clouds in the lower world, beneath Marijois, is foreign to the people of Marijois, simply because they live above the clouds. Literally, they live above the clouds to the point where they don't have to. They never experience rain, which makes me wonder, how do y'all get water to keep the grass green? How do y'all have that endless amount? How do you have like an endless amount of water to keep the grass green and to keep the flowers healthy? How do you get Where do you getting all this stuff from? Are you just getting water transported to you? Like, you never had to experience rain at all. You've never known anything about tornadoes or heavy wind. That's the thing. I think I keep saying that's the thing. I've been saying that a lot lately. My bad. But Marie Joie hasn't really experienced anything that normal people would have to experience, such as, I want to, because the thing, I keep saying it, because one thing that sticks out to me is how, if you don't get rain for a considerable amount of time, especially towards your crops, your flowers, or anything that requires rain to sustain itself, you could see all that stuff die and then experience a drought. Marie Joie apparently has never experienced anything lacking, to the point where even natural phenomena that would help normal people down below is completely foreign to them. The very aspect of rain is something to be told like a horror story. Never thought about that? Such a strange phenomenon? Yeah, think about it. Think about it. Phenomenon that we see commonly: storms, snow, rain, ice forming from sleet or anything of that nature. Regular weather phenomena that we have to go through and deal with. Some people have to deal with the repercussions of heavy rains and typhoons and hurricanes, all these different things. Hurricanes and tornadoes, things that require clouds, they don't ever have to worry about because they live above them. So the very things that we have we're either used to, or we have to be careful of and wary of, they never have to go through because they don't have clouds. That's how foreign a concept weather is for them. The only thing they've ever known, because here's another thing. One more thing. As far as we can tell, since they're above the clouds, they always have sunny skies. Since they're literally above the clouds, they have clear skies all the time. Hold on, is that real? Hold on. Also, remember, at Ennie's lobby, it said that it never gets dark in that area. Hold on, looking up Marie Joie. I know people really like to say Mary Joyce, but okay. Geography. The general architecture of Marie Joie was an 18th. I'm more interested in the topography. The general architecture of Marie Joie has an 18th and 19th century European style. Since the world nobles, the world's highest social class, live there, it is kept in pristine condition. It is located very high above sea level, so it is surrounded by clouds and fog. Around the city are artificially planted forests as well as rivers. Their source of water is unknown. We don't know what their source of water is. We don't know what their source of water is. The city's conveyor belt walkways, called travelators, are continually moved by slave labor pushing them from below. Because of its high altitude being situated above the cloud layer, it never rains in Marie-Joie. People get to Marie-Joie from the Red Port using boat-shaped elevators called gondolas. They arrive at the bottom of long staircases carved into the red line that lead right to the city, and on the sides of the staircases are statues of unknown people. It is built around a main intersection connecting. Okay, so here's the thing. There are images. No, no, those aren't clouds. No, those aren't clouds. That's just fog. Because I was thinking, wait, didn't I see an image and did they have clouds around Pangea Castle? But no, that's just fog. All they have is fog. That is the closest thing to clouds that they get. According to Emporio Ivankov, Marie-Joie's place at the top of the red line is a double-edged sword. The great elevation makes it basically impenetrable, but they have no defense against food shortages and are completely dependent on imports. Revolutionary Army exploited this weakness by attacking the cargo ships and sabotaging the gondolas. Good on you, Revolutionary Army! Let's see. What else? Domain of the Gods, which is the city where the celestial dragons live. Celestial Dragon Gate. Shangara, which is the headquarters of the Holy Knights. And a brand new lava phase that has been constructed so that York can work there. Got all these celestial dragons, all these people, including former slaves and history. So if I really want to know about the geography, it's probably best if I look up the red line. Alright, the red line is a vast ring-like continent which wraps around the entire blue planet. It serves as a border separating the east and south blues from the north and west on both sides, as well as separating the two halves of the Grand Line. It is mostly uninhabited, with the major exception of being home to the world government's capital, Marie-Joie. Said to go 10,000 meters deep from the surface of the sea to Fishman Island at the ocean floor. At the same time, the top of the red line is high enough above sea level to be considered impassable. The red line is also indestructible. Even the power of the Nikyu Nikyu no Mi, which can repel anything at the speed of light, cannot break through it. Such as the case when Kuma pushed himself and he didn't go straight through it. Additionally, pushing himself in order to, go exactly where he needed to go. Additionally, the red line is like a group of islands connected together. The red line that crosses the Grand Line has its own summer, winter, spring, and fall islands. While the continent appears to make it virtually impossible for any boat wishing to cross between Paradise and the New World, there are two certain pass points at which a ship, or at least the crew, can cross between the two seas. 1. Gaining permission from the world government to pass through the Holy Land of Marie-Joie, though this route means that a crew would have to leave their ship behind and get a new one on the other side. Or 2. A crew could get their ship coated, allowing it to submerge down to Fishman Island, allowing them to reach a gigantic hole, though in the grand scheme of things, the hole is actually relatively tiny, at the bottom of the red line that links directly between Paradise and the New World. So think about this for a second. Remember when we learned that over the course of history, the sea levels rose 200 meters over the course of 100 years? What are the odds that this tiny little hole that leads in between the Paradise and the New World was actually just a normal trade route and people were able to go there normally? But now that the sea levels have risen as high as they have, that place is no longer advisable simply because it's submerged underwater. And I say all of this just stemming from the fact that celestial dragons view rain as this odd phenomenon that they basically turn into a boogeyman story to tell their kids. So not only do we have the D being told to children to scare them in Marijois. We have Nika being told to children in Marijois to scare children. And now we have the very concept of rain given the name Zaza. Just the very act of like, is an entity that'll just drop water. Matter of fact, let me just go to that page. There's a monster called the Rain God that dumps water on top of your head. Now, mind you, Killingham doesn't exactly explain why this Rain God would do this. Just saying like, oh, it'll just drop water on your head. It's not explained how much quantity of water will drop on you, whether it's a droplet or maybe it's like an entire ocean's worth of water. It's not really explained because celestial dragons aren't exactly what you would call imaginative. Literally, calling rain a monster. If you had any semblance of thinking that there were any smart celestial dragons, them calling rain a literal monster, I don't think it really needs any explaining. But yeah, this whole chapter just has Zaza, a sleep dick created by Killingham, show up. And and the thing is that gets me, I say this all the time. Wow. The thing is that gets me. I said that phrase all the time. I'm just now noticing because I keep saying it. I'm sorry. But it shows that this is a deep-seated fear amongst everyone in Marijois due to the fact that both Somers and Killingham, full-grown men, They're grown. They're grown. They're saying, "Why did you summon that thing? Are you trying to freak us out?" Showing that perhaps these adults aren't as mature as one would think. Mind you, I don't see Somers being mature at all, simply because he's a sadist that just loves to see children be put in harm's way and then watch their parents suffer from the emotional damage. So I don't expect maturity, but the fact that they are scared of this thing, people who they're immortal. They're essentially immortal. They can regenerate from anything, and they've been given a significant power boost. Yet this thing still scares them. It's still traumatic for them. Really, bruh? But that was basically the end of chapter 1182. Now let's move on to 1183. Titled, let me go back over here. Good Morn Maid. And we begin with Emu saying, "Ragnir, thou wert waiting for one who could strike back against Mu. Isn't that right?" And of course, Ragnir just yells at him. I think he's throwing some cuss words at him. And then Loki goes, "What nonsense are you talking about? I've never seen someone absorb so much damage." Loki, Straw Hat Luffy, "In any case, thou wilt not be my soldiers, so I shall eliminate thee instead." Now here's I was about to say it again. Here's something important to keep in mind. When Luffy and company get out of Elbaf, the target on their backs is going to be even more significant. When the ruler of the world says, "If you will not be my knight, you will be my pawn." I'm sorry, I'm taking this from Superman the Animated Series. I said this during that reaction, that the manner in which Emu behaves reminds me of Darkseid. What I cannot control, I must destroy. So, with Emu saying, "If I can't make you my soldiers, you simply need to die. That which I cannot control needs to be destroyed, because if I can't control it, it can be used against me. It is a liability. It is a monkey wrench in my plans." Yeah, they got monkey wrenches in One Piece. So it just tells me that when Luffy and company eventually leave Elbaf and go their own way, and just thinking about like, where do we go from Elbaf? I'll bring this question up again once we get to the end. There's going to be an even bigger target painted on the back of the Straw Hat crew when they get out of this, because I don't think we're going to lose anyone. I honestly do believe that we are not going to lose anyone from the Straw Hat crew. And when we leave Elbaf, Emu's going to make it an even greater purpose to have both Loki and Luffy killed. Because I don't think Emu's going to be able to do it during this arc. Emu is not going to be able to do anything substantial to Luffy and Loki in ways of like, okay, at least they're heavily incapacitated, so they won't be a threat to me later on. I don't see that happening. I feel like we're going to see yet another world government loss. I don't know what it is, but I just have this sneaking suspicion, and I have been saying this for literal years. Ever since we started this final saga, this final saga of the One Piece series, literally ever since we started season 2 of One Piece, the world government has been failing and losing progressively worse and worse with every major upheaval. They unknowingly allowed Fujitora the ability to basically bow and apologize to someone, which you've never seen an admiral do. Least of all to another king, because the world government treats admirals as if they're above the law, as if they're above even kings themselves, and therefore they should not show any fealty to anyone except for the world government. Fujitora is literally one of the only admirals we see. Well, pretty much the only admiral we've seen that has expressed regret over his actions and also apologize on behalf of the world government, because the world government does not care how the world views them, as long as the world only views them as, we need the world government. We're not going to tell them everything that we do. We just need these people to believe that they need us. We'll give them security. We'll give them peace. We'll give them prosperity, as long as they do what we say. We'll say it to them nicely, and if they don't comply, well, they're next to nothing. They don't even have any human rights. But we're not going to project this out in the world, because we want the rest of the world to treat us as if they absolutely need us for the rest of their lives. So when Fujitora basically had himself and his men bow before King Riku, apologizing for the destruction that they caused, saying the fact that Doflamingo was able to get away with this was our fault entirely, I apologize for that. That was already one mark against him. Akainu was mad, saying like, how dare you bow to another king? Now we gotta save face, so don't you come back to another base until you have the head of both Luffy and Law. And Fujitora's all like, fine, okay. But he's still got a job, though. It's better to keep these people on a leash than let them run wild, right? That's the reason why they haven't fired Garp. Because they know Garp built different, and if Garp wanted to fight them, there's not many people who could actually stop him. And the dude is in his 70s, and he's so busted that it took pretty much everyone who was still on, Pirate Island to bring down Garp, including Kuzan. It took everybody. But the world government has been losing and making poor decisions worse and worse ever since this new world section of One Piece actually started. Ravi, it's good to see you. I hope your day is going well. So after that, we have a moment where, what was the next moment? I feel like that. Okay, so we had Doflamingo and Fujitora bowing to them. Then we had. Then I want to say Kuma being broken out during the reverie was another way for the world government to lose face, because it was Bartholomew Kuma, a slave of the Celestial Dragons and former member of the Seven Warlords, just basically freed by the revolutionaries. So that was another one against them. Then we also have when they tried to stop Luffy from awakening into Nika, that they were willing to anger Kaido, and they failed there. Nika awakened. They were this close to getting their hands on this power if it wasn't for Shanks ransacking the ship with Who's Who on it. And it's so significant that when Who's Who was imprisoned, the very person that told them about Nika just disappeared. Because that information is sensitive, and you don't want that information getting out. You don't want anyone knowing about someone who can free them. someone who can liberate them, someone who can take the chain to shake off the chains of oppression and rise up as one. People who played Just Cause 2 and know exactly that quote. My name is Bolo Santosi. I am the head of the revolutionary armies known as the Reapers. Like the voice acting in that game was crazy. But the world government has been getting worse and worser losses. Another thing is Sabo seeing the true ruler of the world, knowing that the ruler exists, and escaping. So now Sabo has this knowledge that has been passed on to the revolutionaries, specifically Dragon and Ivankov. So now the revolutionaries know that there's a true ruler of the world who presides over the elders themselves. And that is changing their plans. Not only that, but we get to Egghead, literally one of the most important moments in One Piece history, where Vegapunk is spilling the knowledge on how the world used to have less water in it, and the water levels and the sea levels that we see of One Piece right now are the result of a titanic war that literally shook the world so much that it caused the another one. Now the mic is not covering so much screen, it feels good. Yeah, we don't have the arm anymore. I hope my vocal levels are good for you guys with this new positioning. But the war so titanic it changed the literal sea levels. Learning about the void and people hearing the phrase Void Sentry, learning about Joy Boy, the people who have D in their name, history of the Void Sentry, and all this different information that the elders themselves resolved to literally show up on Egghead in order to resolve and stop, because they don't want people learning the history of the world, even if it's some little tidbits that Vegapunk cobbled together. They failed to fully stop it, and they still managed to get plenty, and Vegapunk still managed to get plenty of information out there. Thank you, D-Train, thank you. Still managed to get plenty of information out there. And then they tried to stop Luffy because it was an order from Emu. So not only did they fail to stop Vegapunk's message from, being muted, they stopped it, but only after Vegapunk has said a whole bunch of information and gotten it out there now. But they also failed to stop Luffy. They failed to kill him, and they actually failed to capture him and stop him. Even though killing is a more permanent solution to stopping and capturing someone. But they failed to stop Luffy entirely, and he escaped. And we lost an elder because of it, because of that level of incompetence. And now we're here in Elbaf, and they're still trying to get their way, but they're being met with even more opposition again. For one thing, they were not counting on Luffy and company being as strong as they were. Nor were they expecting that Loki was going to be joining into the mayhem and causing destruction as well. So now we're in a situation just like with Egghead, where we had some incredibly influential people that helped basically govern this world, now fully taking part because of all the craziness that has been happening. Egghead, all 5 elders showed up to stop Vegapunk's message so that the world could never know that information. They failed, and as a result of their failing, Saturn died. Literally had the immortality stripped from his body and reduced to an exploding skeleton. But now we have Emu, the literal Neurona Emu, showing up to Elbaf to personally oversee and resolve this matter of trying to kidnap the children in order to force the parents into slavery. Honestly, it's slavery. It is slavery. It's not servitude. It's not indentured service. It is literally slavery, so that Marijwa and the world government could have an entire nation of powerful giants which not many people, unless they're, strong in terms of, being able to use hockey and are comparable to some of the strongest pirate crews in the world, are able to contend with giants. Now we have Emu here overseeing that plan actually finishes. Which makes this whole situation of, and mind you, I'm still on the first page. I'm still on the first page of 1183, which makes the whole situation of Emu saying, like, if I can't control you, then I have to kill you. Because if Emu fails to bring down Loki and Luffy here, the repercussions of Emu failing to stop them will be immense for the Holy Knights, for Marie-Joie, and for Emu's dreams of the world. If he fails to kill them or incapacitate them in a way that they cannot alter his plans and be much of a threat to him, it is going to bite him in the behind massively in the future. Mind you, it's biting them in the behind now because they couldn't bring down Luffy and Egghead. But if Luffy and company get away, Elbaf is safe, and they're not able to do anything about it anymore. And also, one thing they can do is the one thing that they have to, one more thing. The one thing they have to do to ensure that Elbaf is completely safe from any more Holy Knights showing up is to literally get rid of the ground that has the Abyss Circle attached to it. Because is the Abyss Circle attached to the stone itself, or is it the area itself that has the circle on it? Because if they get rid of the stone that has it, maybe it possibly could disrupt it and make it so that no one else could teleport inside of Elbaf ever again. Because that's how Shamrock and Gunko got there in the first place. Then again, I am trying to remember exactly how they summoned Somers and Killingham. They summoned Somers and Killingham because they were there already. Yeah, they summoned them because they were there already. So if they get rid of that Abyss Circle in Elbaf, they don't need to worry about anyone teleporting into Elbaf anymore. But I'm saying this, when Luffy and company get away, this is going to make things even harder for Emu because, one, he'll have failed of taking over the entirety of Elbaf and also failed to destroy Needhogger and Nika. So this would be just yet another massive loss. Another massive loss for the world government. But going back to it, and we'll get to that point, Ravi, we'll get to that point. There's a theory that Chopper also has a god devil fruit. Think about it. Why was Blackbeard really in Drum Kingdom? That is a good question. We still don't know why he was there, because we only know of Blackbeard being in Drum Kingdom after he was already long gone, and so was Wapple. We still don't know why Blackbeard was in Drum Kingdom. I know there was this theory from 12 years ago where someone saying Blackbeard attacked Drum Island to gain data and information, and is the reason why how he has more than one devil fruit power. But this was literally a theory from 12 years ago, so I don't know. Don't know why they went there. But let's see. Let's see. Have a theory: Whitebeard, Edward Newgate, Blackbeard, and Marshall D. Teach, and fourth squad Commander Thatch. All three of them seem to be based on the 18th century pirate of the Caribbean. Blackbeard, Edward Teach, alias of Edward Thatch. Is that true? Please tell me more about that person. Let's see. There's a lot of names. One of them is Thatch. Others include Drummond and Thatch. Okay, Oda's just talking about like who Blackbeard actually was. But going back in time, Dalton described the Blackbeard Pirates like there were only 5 pirates, and it shows what appears to be Blackbeard, Van Auger, possibly Burgess, and Doc Q and Lafitte. Captain called himself Blackbeard. They were immensely powerful. We never had a chance. They defeated us before we knew what hit us. And it was just 5 pirates. So let me look up Drum Island, Drum Kingdom. And this is just the main page. I need to go to history. Okay, let's see. After eating the Yami no Mi at long last, Teach adopted the name Blackbeard and soon formed his own crew, the Blackbeard Pirates, which composed of Lafitte, former policeman from the West Blue, and the crew's navigator, Van Auger, and the crew's navigator, Van Auger the sniper. Jesus Burgess the helmsman, Doc Q the doctor, and Stronger, Doc Q's horse. Shortly afterwards, the crew attacked the Drum Kingdom, causing its king Wobble to flee and ironically liberating Drum Kingdom from his tyranny. And this was in chapter 134. But that's all we know. And this happened after he got his hands on the dark fruit. This was after that. So I would like to know the reason why he was in Drum Kingdom, unless he was just there to cause havoc. The same way Blackbeard was on Bonero Island. He wasn't there to fight Ace. Ace found him there. I just think he was on Drum Island just to cause havoc. Just because. But getting back to the story, interesting theory about Chopper having a god devil fruit, because there's a lot of theories around how Chopper was able to dispel the Domi Reversi. Whereas we see that lethal damage towards people who have been turned by a Domi Reversi is enough to revert them back to normal, Chopper has been slapping people in the back, and that's been changing them. Which brings to question whether or not Chopper's devil fruit is truly just a human fruit, because unlike the other human fruit models we've seen, Chopper is the only one just called a human fruit. Whereas Sengoku has a human fruit mythical type modeled Daibutsu, and Luffy has the human fruit mythical type modeled Nika. But Chopper's the only one whose devil fruit has been simply called the human fruit, no model type. So perhaps there's a theory that maybe there's more to Chopper than meets the eye. Because ponder, and I don't want to say think about this because I've been saying it for a while now. Ponder on this for a minute. The type of forms that Chopper takes is one that one would see on a chart of the evolutionary chain. You have him in his reindeer brain point, which is normal. Then you have him in his larger, strong point. I think that's what it's called. And then you have him in his monster point. Each one gaining more, each one seeming like an evolution of what he is from each individual, point he is. Like at each point in time he is. Literally, point. Maybe that's the reason why they ignore mentioning its name in live action? Exactly. Because if you look at Chopper's fruit, the fact that he is able to alter his own evolution in multiple ways, because he's been able to go into all sorts of different forms with his different points. Horn point, run point. Let me go over here. Let me go to abilities and powers. Yeah, using a rumble ball, he was able to use jumping point, which allowed his legs to evolve and become long and agile, allowing him to leap higher. Guard point, which basically causes his fur to expand into a protective ball of fur. Arm point, which makes his arms bulky and strong. And a horn point, which grants him large antlers. And this is from him taking a rumble ball. But after the 2 year time skip, he's actually learned how to do them without the rumble ball. Meaning, while the rumble ball was a bit of a catalyst to help trigger that, he is able to do it naturally, essentially evolving on his own, no longer needing an outside source to induce the evolution, but is now fully capable of inducing the evolution at any time on his own because he's evolved. And it truly is unique with the fact that his Hito Hito no Mi is literally the only one that doesn't have a model of any kind. It might move a little bit funny here. So we have his walking point, which is his default look as a reindeer. Then we have his brain point, which is his default look at any other time. Then we have his heavy point. That's what it's called, heavy point. We have his heavy point, which gives him a more human type look to his body. Then we have the Rumble Ball transformations, which includes his guard point, his horn point, his kung fu point, his jumping point, arm point, and monster point. With the monster point being the only one where he only needs a rumble ball to access that form. And then we have his baby geezer state, his baby GG state, where it happens after he uses a rumble ball after an extended period of time, but that's the side effects. But everything else, the thing is, he's been able to access these forms without a rumble ball. So I'm looking at this now. Let's see. Before the time skip, the consumption of 3 rumble balls in under 6 hours gave Chopper an additional rumble ball transformation, appearing to be a combination of all Chopper's points except Brain Point. Form comes with an incredible increase in height, even dwarfing the already inhumanly tall Kumadori and Bartholomew Kuma. Thus, is considered a type of gigantification, resembling a Wendigo in appearance. After the time skip, Chopper has gained the ability to keep control of himself and communicate coherently while in this form, which he named Monster Point, though his voice is significantly deeper. It is now the only form he needs a rumble ball for, and by eating one, he can stay in it for 3 minutes. However, it still requires a colossal amount of energy to use. After reverting to normal, Chopper is too exhausted to move for approximately 2 to 8 hours. Chopper suggested that he can only use it once every 6 hours. Strangely, Chopper has showcased the ability to undo the Demon Covenant with simple strikes in this form. He can somehow knock the demon itself from the bodies of those afflicted. So here's the. I was about to say it again. So here's the matter to ponder on. There is definitely something going on with Chopper, and especially with the Hito Hito no Mi model that he has, that is just beyond just simply being normal. There is definitely something going on with Chopper's forms that allows him to do something that can undo. Here's I keep wanting to say it. I keep wanting to say here's the thing because I keep going back to it. It's just part of my vocabulary. I'm sorry. But the fact that Chopper of all people is capable of undoing a Domi Reversi by simply striking someone affected by it. There's definitely something major with his power. Because the power we've seen from Emu has been shown to be almost absolute. No one's been able to basically wrest control of themselves from it, save for Nika and Needhogger. Those are the only ones. Hold on. Okay, we're back. So there's something going on with Chopper and possibly his own devil fruit power that allows him to basically turn people back to normal. So, going back through this chapter, Emu says, so I shalt eliminate thee instead, just like Dozon. And we don't know who this Dozon person is. Some people say, like, ooh, what if that's the name of Joy Boy? But I'm like, I don't know. What if it's someone else? I don't know. We don't know. And Loki starts to fly close to Emu, going Ragna Dulheim. And then Emu coats his sword in flames, and extends its reach in considerable size in order to clash with Loki, who is capable of bringing down multiple bolts of lightning at will, just like Ragnar Dulheim, and then the lightning just comes down. He literally has snow and lightning at his command while he's in this form. So lightning comes down, and Emu basically just spins his staff around in order to repel the lightning blast with Blade of Wrath Grom. Then we get back to the Western Village where Zaza is still trying to take the children, and the giants are trying to fight, and the children are being swept up in the arm of this Zaza, while Ripley and all the other parents and guardians who are looking after their own kids get up despite being bandaged. Chopper tries to protest to them, saying, "You shouldn't be moving around. I haven't finished your blood transfusions. You really will die." And Ripley says, "My life means nothing to me if my son is ripped from my arms." And Zaza proceeds to just open fire with like a literal hail of rain, of water directly down on the giants, and starts grabbing more and more kids. And Killingham goes, "Only 7 of them? It'll have to do. Let's go, Zaza." And then we get Sanji, who makes his way towards Zaza, and he's looking directly at her. And then we just move away. We just move away from Sanji and cut back to Gunko. We cut back to Gunko, who's still frozen in the block of ice. Now, when I read this chapter, I originally thought that, oh, wait, Emu's blast didn't dissipate the ice? Meaning that Loki's Thorheim, or no, not Thorheim, it's Loki's Nibelheim, is so solid that not even Emu's fire was capable of just quickly, destroying it. Because I thought he just set the whole thing on fire and then she would have melted by now. But no, she's still clearly frozen in that same size block of ice. And then we have Usopp going, "Brook, why did you run off to fight that woman? I had to jump in after you because it seemed like something was wrong." And Brook doesn't say anything. And everyone's asking, "Do you know her, Brook? Was she some enemy you fought against in the past?" "No, not an enemy, but a person I did not want to see. Or so I thought. I'm so confused right now. If it's really her, then she must be 77 years old right now. So it must be someone else, right? I mean, she's a celestial dragon." "Yes, at the time, she was the princess of my homeland, and I lost contact with her when she traveled to sacred Marijua." And then we get Frankie running up going like, "Hey, Brook, that chick's still frozen. Can't tell if she's dead or alive. We can just leave her there, yeah?" What I'm saying is, she's a celestial dragon who looks exactly like someone you knew. Doesn't change the fact that she came here to attack Elbaf. Yes, but when we were tied up earlier, she was the one who undid the rope, showing that when Usopp got out of it, it was literally Gunko undoing all of that. Yes, I'm free. I feel like my mental powers did that. It was not. Why would she do such a thing? And then you can hear Gunko still get control of herself and go, "Run, Brook." But Brook being confused, going, "How does she know who I am?" And then she turned back into that demonic form again. Her original personality, the personality that saved us, her demonic form. It feels as though we've seen three different people in her. You think it's possible that she's being controlled? It did not occur to me at first, but after seeing people turned into demons today, I must admit I feel deeply disturbed in my core. And then Jinbei's all like, I hate to rush you, boy. I hate to rush you, bro. But we need a decision. Does she live or die? We can't do anything before that's settled." And Brook just straight up ignores the question and just decides, story time. A long time ago, truly a long time ago, she was just a child and I was a young man too. It was in a country that no longer exists, Esperia. And this is when we get the long awaited backstory of Brook. Literally the oldest person on the Straw Hat crew. A person who was around before Roger became a pirate. A person who's been around for almost a century. Hold on, my eye itches. We have a person who's been around for almost an entire century, and we're finally getting Brook's backstory, which I said multiple times in the past that getting Brook's backstory would be crazy important, considering all the stuff that he has seen in his times when he was alive. And of course, he had a period of time when he's been dead, but when he was alive is pretty much one of the more important aspects. Esperia was a land of music full of workshops crafting instruments of all kinds. And then we go 70 years in the past to the West Blue. So much happens in the West Blue. Think about that for a second. So many things happen in the West Blue. Hold on, let me grab my phone so that way I can look some of this stuff up without these wiki pages slowing things down. It looks mighty cloudy outside. Is it about to rain today? It looks like it might rain today. All right, hold on. Let me see. Like, how many significant people have come from the West Blue? West Blue. Let's look this up real quick. All right. So, significant people who have come from the West Blue are Robin, Clover, Ovia. Okay. So, I got a list of people right here. We got Robin, we got Clover, we have Olvia, we have Rocks, we have Blackbeard, we have Brook, we have Yorkie, Gecko Moria, Capone, Chinjao and Sai, Diamond Jozu, Lafitte, Daz Bones, Mr. One, Hina, Fujitora, Morley, Miss Valentine, many kings, a lot of royalty, but a lot of significant characters also come from the West Blue as well. Yeah, Don Marlin, Atmos, Curiel, Baby Five, Perona. A lot of significant people in this story, but some majorly powerful people, specifically Rox and Blackbeard. They all come from the West Blue. So we're having another flashback that centers on the West Blue again. The last one we had, it started with Harold and then it turned into Rox's backstory. And now we're having yet another person who originates from the West Blue now having an entire section for themselves. But I say this because I am happy that we're finally getting Brook's backstory. Now I can stop saying the moment we get Brook's backstory, we're gonna learn some crazy stuff. Now I can stop saying that. But we got to West Blue 70 years ago at 4 a.m. in the morning, and Brook is just singing his heart out. Kid and Shanks too, I believe. They are not on this list. See, if I go here, Kid is from the South Blue. Kid is from the South Blue. Kid's from the South Blue. Let's see. Bonnie's from the South. Roger's from the South. Kuzan, Lucky Roo, Sengoku, Inazuma. They're from the South. Let me go over to the East. Luffy's from the East. Sabo's from the East. Ace. I'm looking for Shanks. Nami. Shanks is from the East Blue. Yeah, Shanks is from the East Blue. Kid is from the west. Kid is from the South. Shanks is from the East. Yeah, but a lot of people we've been getting for Elbaf have been coming from the West Blue itself. So we have this flashback where Brook is just singing his heart out at 4 a.m. in the morning. You know, the perfect time to be singing serenades, loud serenades. There are people who are hungover telling him to shut up. Then you have dogs who are barking at him singing. You got one kid saying like, "Good morning, Brook," and he's just still screaming. This is and he's screaming and yelling and singing, going, "This is and we get the narration of this is the land of instrument makers, Esperia." And then we're at the barracks where we have the captain walking in, and Brook is the captain. Oh, the One Piece wiki lied to me then. I literally just looked at it myself. Kid comes from the east, and no, Kid comes. Yeah, no wait. Kid comes from the south, and Shanks comes from the east. Yeah, but we get all these people in the barracks who are going like, "Come on, Captain, teach us how to do your quick draw techniques. It's not fair that Princess Shuri gets all your attention. This is pathetic. What do you think I'm teaching you now? Learn the fundamentals before you dream." And they're both singing, and we finally, after ages of waiting, we finally get how Brook looked when he was alive without sunglasses. And not surprisingly, He a brother, and he's chilling, and he's the Kingdom of Hesperia leader of Raider Squad Battle Convoy, and he's 20 at this time. And then we have Kingdom of Hesperia Princess Shuri, who's age 7 at this time, and they're singing Binks's Brew. You think I got any stronger, just like Mama? And we have Brook, who's all like enamored with the Queen, apparently saying like, yes, Her Majesty is very powerful. Ah, Queen Kendall, light of my life. And Shruty's all like, it's not good to fall in love with a married woman, Brook. What do you mean? Love is free. And then we have the King of Esperia, King Reuven, who goes, I sentence you to death for conspiracy. Too harsh! Please, boss, I mean Your Majesty. And we have the King of Esperia here. You were plotting to kill me, weren't you? Of course not. Don't even suggest it. I'll wait until death takes you. Come on, Brook, forget about Mama. Don't worry, Brook. When I grow up, I'll marry you instead. And Reuben's all like, no, Shuri, you're supposed to say goofy stuff like that to me and melt my heart. And Brook is all like, no thanks, I prefer a wife without the runny nose. And when Reuben tries to kick him in the face, he's all like, what, you picky oaf? How dare you turn down my daughter in front of me? I'm nothing if not faithful. And then just dodges out of the way as the king tries to kick him. And Shuri is just laughing at the antics between Brook and Reuben. And in the next chapter, we find out more about their relationship. I hate to interrupt the fun, Your Majesty. There's a gang on horseback riding through the city from the port. Some of the battle convoy is in town, but they're outnumbered. We've sent more from the castle, but I don't think they'll make it in time. What are they after? They've been shouting for Queen Candel, who is enjoying an opera in town. What? Is it the Malone family? Yes, sir. They've been after Candel for years. They've been after Candel for years. When did they land at my port? I subtly want to do voice acting for these chapters, but we already did that on Sunday. When did they land at my port? Send word to Candel not to leave the opera house. The opera house's transponder snail is on silent mode during this show. And here's when I first learned that there was a silent mode for transponder snails. I didn't even know this. I thought it was just constantly gotcha. I didn't know that they had like a silent mode on. Or they had a silent mode in general. And then Shorty goes, do something, Brook, they're going to kidnap Mama. And Brook goes, the Malone rogues, you say? Why, that's odd. I saw them in the port earlier today. And then we cut to the theater street, where they're just riding on horseback through the streets, shooting their guns off and throwing people out of the way. And then we get to the opera house, where apparently Candel is listening to a performance. And all of the members of all the people who are there for the Malone family, they're there in front going, come on out, Candel. We have permission to shoot from Don Malone if you don't. Today's the day we settle this. You're going to be the Don's woman once and for all. And then we get one guard going, make sure Her Majesty doesn't leave and then he gets gunned down by a member of the Malone family. And then Reuben goes, help, Brook. It's going to be fine, boss. For one thing, she's very strong. They can't take her away. Plus, well, I'm rather stunned they haven't noticed yet. You see, by the time they left the port, I'd already cut them all. And in that instant, we cut directly from Brook, who's just slyly smiling, going like, I already cut them all. And we cut to the Malone family, where every last one of them suffer a massive slash going across their chests, and every single one of them is down. Matter of fact, we can get a head count of how many, in this panel, I never noticed, we can get a full-on head count of how many people Brook just brought down in an instant. So I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 20. Is that 30? Did he bring down 30 people? Am I counting right? I think I don't know if I'm counting right. Let me start from the top again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. That looks like 28. He dropped almost 30 people. 28, roughly 28 people in one instance. And they're laying on the ground bleeding from the mouth going, "What just happened?" And people around are going, "Oh, wait, is this one of those they were already cut things?" Then three pace hum notch slash. And it's literally Hanao Tasancho. Ya Hatsugiri! All of them just got cut down instantly. And everyone's cheering for Brook. And then we're getting cheers for Candel as well. And we get a formal regal introduction. 70 years ago, the kingdom of Esperia harbored two great stars. One, the former captain of the battle convoy and current Queen Candel. The other, an unpopular musician but master of the quick draw sword technique that left its victims unaware they'd been slashed. The leader of the Raider squad, Humming Brook. And then, of course, we get introduced to Kingdom of Esperia Queen Candel. In this era, the kingdom was at peace. Was. And that is the end of chapter 1183. So for the last chapter that we got in May, this one is called We're All Bones When We Die. And we fast forward within this flashback to Shuri 7 years later. By the time the Princess of Esperia was 14 years of age, tales of her beauty had spread until 5 princes of nearby kingdoms had asked for her hand in marriage. And she beat them all. And this is Shuri when she's 14 years old. And she's exclaiming, "You're all so weak. I don't like weak men or men who can't play music." And then she's just chilling with Brook. "I hear you defeated all the princes in combat, Princess Shuri." "I sure did. You like strong women, don't you, Brook?" "Well, I'm a lot stronger now. And I'm a lot cuter." "I suppose you are." And then she also says something about her figure. And Brook says, Stop that, it's undignified." "Oh, why do you have to talk like Papa?" And this is when, 7 years later, Brook is now 27, and he's now... Actually, hold on. What was his rank? Hold on. I am back. Everything's good. Everything is good. So, moving on from chapter 1183. Oh, no, 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 no. I was looking up what Brook's rank was for the squad. Leader of Raider Squad, Battle Convoy. 7 years later, he is now the commander. Yeah. Yeah, he's now the commander of the Battle Convoy. He was once leader of the Raider Squad. Now he's the commander of the entire Battle Convoy. And when he's saying like it's undignified for you to, try and describe your shape to me, your figure to me, he goes all like, beauteous ladies, might I have a gander at your garters? And a peek at your panties. And then Shorty throws her sword directly at his head. And they're just chilling. They're just chilling, just singing. And while they're singing, Shorty says, I love all your songs, Brook. Yes, His Majesty said the same thing. You really love Papa, don't you, Brook? And Mama, too, of course. Yes, I owe him everything. If I hadn't met your father, I'd be nothing but bones by now. And that's when we start to get the beginning of the flashback of Brook at his youngest years, where he was basically a poor child, living in a trash heap, looking at other rich kids play music in an institute, having to be chased away, and apparently he's known as the shame of the country. Simply because he's an undesirable. He's a poor person walking into the area of nobles, and he spends all of his time creating music and singing in the junkyard, in a essentially a trash dump. In a dump that's similar to the Goa Kingdoms. Saying like dad and mom and little bro were all starving and skin and bones. So he has a dad and a mom and a little brother. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind for a second. Is this the only member of the Straw Hat crew that actually had siblings? Nah. Brain fart, because I completely forgot about Sanji. I forgot about the Vin Smoke. Say nothing, say nothing, say nothing. Say nothing. I forgot about the Vin Smokes. Say nothing. I forgot about the Vin Smokes. I forgot about them. But this is the second member of the Straw Hat crew to actually have siblings. But the question is, with Brook being like as old as he is right now, if his little brother is still alive. Because people can live for an incredible amount of years, so it's curious. But then again, Esperia is a country that no longer exists, so that's curious as well. But he's singing a song saying like, "Let's blame the king. We need a new king." And then we have a young Reuven who walks up and he's listening to what Brook is saying that his lyrics are terrible. And wondering what instrument he's playing, and it's a violin that Brook has created. A violin that Brook has created just straight out of trash. And the sound effect that is coming off of it is that it doesn't sound good, because it's a violin made out of trash. And Brook is all like, you came here before, right? Are you a fan of mine, old man? Maybe I am, but I'm not that old. I'm only 21. Wow, you look so much older. Yo ho 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 ho. You must have had a hard life. You must have a hard life. You got a weird laugh, kid. I guess I'll call you bro instead. And then Brook is just spending time with Reuven. I won't go through every single finite detail because that's what reactions are for. But Brook chills with Reuven, gives him some food. Reuven thinks of the small portions he had to get as a royal, which were just like small portions and people trying to marry off their daughters to him. And then he just eat. And the thing is, it's a pot made with fresh grasshoppers and a whole frog mixed in with some curry powder. And he eats it, and it's absolutely disgusting. But he would rather eat that than eat like the small portions that rich people seem to pay like 2 to 3 figures for, and it don't even fill them up. I'm telling you, I would be mad if I went to a restaurant and they gave me like a big plate and there's just a small portion about that big on it, and they just drizzled like a little bit of sauce over it, or they surround. One thing that gets me and I keep using. I never noticed that that was a verbal shortcut of mine. One thing that gets me. One the thing I can't. Wow, it's really part of my vocabulary, so I can't even actually default to something else. The annoying thing is how sometimes they'll give you the plate full of big food, big old plate of food with a small portion, and they don't even put the sauce directly on the food. They just drizzle it around it as if you're paying for it to be drizzled on the plate itself. And then they'll put like a little parsley leaf off to the side for garnish, and it don't even add to the flavor. If you bring a plate of food to me and it barely has anything on it, we gonna fight. We're fighting. We're fighting. And you expect me to pay like 70, 80, $90 for it? We are fighting. We're going outside, leave your chef hat in the kitchen. We fighting. If you win, I'll pay for it. If I win, you give me at least 3 more plates with that same amount of food on it so I can actually have a whole meal. We're fighting if you bring a plate of food that small to me. But Brook is talking to Reuven, saying like, what, you want to pay me? Don't bother, bro. We each got our problems, don't we? And then it just shows over time, Reuven just spending more and more time with Brook, actually having fun, actually enjoying life. Then, one day in Asperia, it's a naval escort ship. Load the merchant ship with instruments. Be careful, they're fragile. And it cuts to Brook. And mind you, there are people just loading instruments on ships to be transported. But it cuts to Brook, who's tied to a chair and has apparently been tortured and beaten because the Navy is looking for some powder that the gangsters were apparently reserving for them, and they're confusing Brook as the courier who's supposed to be bringing all this stuff to them. Brook doesn't know, but the Navy doesn't believe him, thinking like, we paid a lot of money for that stuff and you're supposed to give it to us. And instead, what do we find? Curry powder. And Brook keeps singing. And while he's singing, he's going, it'll be over in a moment if I keep singing. So long, stray dogs. So long, bro. And the Navy guy goes, either way, he's seen our faces. We gotta kill him and go after the gang. And when that happens, Brook cries out one more time with one of his lyrics, and Reuven literally breaks the whole door to the warehouse down, going, Brook! And Brook is crying his eyes out, and the Navy's going like, Prince Reuven? And Brook is all like, huh? Prince? And that's when we get a bona fide day one moment for Reuven. We just talked about this yesterday. A bona fide moment from Reuven that just proves he is really one of the nobles I don't mind following in the world of One Piece. Well, would have liked following him in the world of One Piece, because Brook did say that Reuven died. So, but he goes, I'm glad you're all right, Brook. I don't know what I'd do with myself if you died. And then his battle convoy's there going, step back, your highness. The battle convoy will handle the rest. Don't try to stop me. I'll do this myself. Look what these guys did to my little friend. They need to feel the same pain he did. Hey, wait, that's Asperia's battle convoy. Prince Reuven, we've caught the Malone family and the mule who was transporting their drugs. Mule? And they were drugs. Is it just me, or does Reuven resemble Zebek? Yeah, if you mean rocks, no. He does not resemble rocks. His face, if anything, kind of reminds me of a mixture between okay, who's this person? Who's a person? I'm trying to remember which character this is. But he doesn't remind me of Rocks at all. In terms of his face, he does not remind me of Rocks. Because there's a lot of butt-chinned people in One Piece, and there's a lot of people with crooked noses too. So he does not remind me of Rocks. If anything, I'm glad he doesn't remind me of Rocks, because it'd be like, wow, it's another person who what we just came out of a flashback with Rocks, and now we got another person who looks just like Rocks. That would cause way too much confusion. So I personally don't think he looks like Rocks at all. But apparently, what the Navy was trying to get from the Malone family was essentially just drugs. Just drugs! Drugs! If anyone who's watched Randy Feltface knows exactly what knows exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, they were transporting drugs to the Navy for reasons unknown. Some people said maybe it was possibly dancing powder, but then he really is just a kid who loves curry powder. Your Highness, you have to set your personal grudge aside. The world government is behind the Navy. If the government is backing this scum, then the world's truly coming to end, right, Candel? And Candel is laughing to herself, going like, I am your trusted blade, Highness. I'll fight at your side. Hey, stop, we're Navy! No, you're not. You're trash! And Reuven and Candel just go straight belt to behind on every single one of them. The whole battle convoy just decimates all of these Marines. They're sword fighting. That's so cool. And this is what inspires Brook to take up fencing. And when that happens, all the crowd is cheering for them, going, Lady Candel's done it again. She saved the kingdom from peril. And we get to the Asperia Palace itself, where Brook has been healed and is recuperating. Candel is serving tea while Reuven is checking up on Brook, telling him the reasons why he didn't explain why he was a noble, because he didn't want anything to change between them. And that's understandable. You have someone who's rich, and they just want to be friends. You can understand the reluctance to tell people that you got money, because some people act funny when they find out you have privilege. Some people that weren't your friends suddenly want to hang out with you a lot. And some people that were already your friends, if they were there for you from the beginning, a good deal of them tend to not change. But, when you explain to people that you got money, you got ends, you have influence, you have prestige, you have connections, some people be acting funny, be acting like all these years you were friends and I needed your help with this and you could have helped out with this. Those people you got to be careful of. You got to be careful of those relatives who never give you the time of day and then all of a sudden start to really want to help out or tell you how much they miss you, or they do it like this. You know what? We don't hang out much anymore. We should get a day where we just hang out and talk and just catch up. Even though, the thing, you know what? I don't care about my verbal tick. I don't care about me repeating these things because I always say it all the time. The thing that gets me is how when people get money, you get relatives who have a phone. They got a phone. They got your number. It ain't like they own AT&T and they're using minutes per second. It ain't like we're in the 90s and early 2000s where you would get cards to give yourself more minutes on your prepaid phone. People got phones. And if they got their number, it's not like you're being held at gunpoint to not call this person. So when you get money, you get relatives who could have called you at any time during the year. Some relatives do not speak to you at all. They don't want anything to do with you. They don't want to be involved. They don't want you intruding on their daily monotony, okay? They don't want you intruding on your daily monotony. So the moment you start looking like you're doing good for yourself, and it looks like you could possibly have some extra to give out because you're doing so well, then all of a sudden these relatives start to talk to you that didn't before. They suddenly want to be friendly. They suddenly want to be cordial. They suddenly want to be a part of the family again. They suddenly want to take you out places. They suddenly want to spend time with you. They suddenly want to see if they could get in good with you because you got money. And that's the reason why people who are rich should not tell anyone that they're rich. This is the reason why. Because Reuven said, I wasn't trying to hide it. I just had too much fun hanging around you to ruin the good times. I can understand Reuven's reasoning for it. Because people act funny when you got money. That's why I actually feel bad for people who win the lottery. Yeah. Because all of a sudden, you got relatives who are suddenly sick. They weren't sick before, but suddenly they need help for an operation. Or, oh, I'm about to lose my house. but they never called you about saying like they're about to lose their house or they need help in order to pay this one bill or do this one thing. And now all of a sudden you got relatives who suddenly have ailments, suddenly have issues that never had them before. Now they're suddenly knocking on your door saying like with their hand out saying like I need your help. Remember all the good times, remember all of this, remember all of that. That's the reason why when you get money, don't tell nobody. Because if they weren't there with you when you had little, they should not be there with you when you got more. This is a life lesson. If the people were not there for you where you barely had 2 cents to rub together, they do not need to be around you or be there with you when you have too many cents to rub together and you actually have to give it away. Because those people were only there to see what they could get in. Be mindful of these people. Be careful of these people. Do not be fooled by people saying like, "Oh, I need your help. I promise I'll pay you back." And they were never there for you to begin with. They were never truly there for you, but what they can get from you. Be careful. And so once again, I understand Reuven's reasoning because people act funny when you get money. Also, don't you dare tell anyone about stealing that curry powder. Every time Prince Reuven went missing, we went into a panic trying to find him. I never would have guessed he was passing the time with such an adorable little friend. And then, of course, that's when Brook gets enamored by Candel. And then Reuven just shrugs it off, saying like, just ignore him, he's fine. And all of a sudden, this is where we get to the point where we find out this is how Brook became the benefactor to how Reuven became the benefactor to Brook. More importantly, listen up. This guy's my favorite musician. Give him a room in the barracks and some real instruments to play and make it so he can attend school. We got a new star in Asperia. I love this guy. If we keep him around, life in the palace is going to be way more fun. And the same way Corazon was saying he was lamenting how he wasn't able to find a cure for Law's lead disease. And he was lamenting this while thinking that Law was asleep. And Law was tearing up thinking of this. Now you have Brook tearing up, hearing this as well, in a similar moment. And those are all the chapters that we got of One Piece in the month of May. Overall, I think this was a good month. I think this was a good month for One Piece. And the fact that in May we are finally getting Brook's backstory. I'm pleased. I'm pleased. Now, I have some questions and I have some things that I want to bring up. The matter of Emu looking like his cough is progressing more and more, especially when they pester and try to guilt trip you. I've had people use your Christianity as a weapon to get what they want from you. See, that's the wrong thing. And as a Christian myself, I need to emphasize that trying to use the word to get what you want is wrong. Like trying to use the Bible and trying to use your status as a Christian to get what they want is fundamentally wrong. And if people say like, "Oh, you need to," but doesn't the Bible say like to say all? And people will try to use the Bible as an excuse for you to do something for them when you don't have to. I know it's harsh to hear, but you owe nothing to no man but to love them. That is literally all you. That's any real Christian will tell you that is all you owe to anybody. You owe nothing to no man but to love them. That's it. I don't owe you no extra money. I don't owe you nothing. You were not there for me when I was at my lowest, so why do I need to be there for you? It is not rude to say no. Because some people get it confused. They get it twisted. You're a Christian. You're not allowed to say no. You're supposed to be helpful for everyone. No, that's not what that means. You got that wrong. See, you want to use that as a way, as a crutch for me to feel like, well, I got to do what the word says. The word did not say anything like that. People get that confused. Try to guilt trip you. Try to use your good sense of morality and your good sense of grace that you get as a Christian to use that against you. But it's wrong. Don't make me start. I'm gonna calm down, okay? Because so many people try to use that against others. People try to use that as an excuse to berate others. People try to use that as a way to harass others. People try to use that as a way to basically be rude and demeaning to others. And I'm like, you completely missed the whole purpose. You're a fool. So it gets on my nerves, especially when people try to use that as a way to get what they want. Oh no, that's deceitful. That's deceitful. That's evil. That's evil. It's evil. It ain't morally gray area. It's not like maybe chaotic neutral. No, it's evil. It's bad. And people think that when we Christians, we just gonna lie down and just take stuff. No, no, no. We just ain't gonna deal with you. You ain't gonna get nothing from me. Take advantage if you want to, but you ain't gonna get nothing. And I ain't wrong for saying so. People crazy. People are crazy. They're crazy. But let me say all my stuff that I need to say, and then I'll bring this session to a close. I feel this flashback with Brooke is going to be incredibly insightful into the life of Gunko, because if anything, I feel like when Shuri is taken to Marijois, that's when she gets a brand new name. Shuri, I don't like that name. Your name is now Gunko. And then Gunko, and the thing is, Gunko has been around long enough to be seen as the right hand of God during the point already there when, you know, Garling. Sorry, Garling was where they were doing the national hunting competition on God Valley. She was already seen as the the blade of God. You know, the only person to have such a moniker within Marijois. Literally the right hand of Emu, his attendant, if you will. So seeing how that leads up to that is definitely going to be interesting. And also seeing how the matter of how Brooke never wants to see Shuri again because she kills Reuven. And what is it with the patricide and matricide in this story? Actually, when you think about it, there's a lot of patricide in here. You get Doflamingo killing his own father. You get I'm trying to remember. See, we have Doflamingo killing his own father. I don't really count Big Mom. I don't really count Big Mom killing her mother because Carmel isn't technically her mom. But there tends to be a lot of parents dying in this story when you think about it. Think about that. There tend to be a lot of parents dying in this story. Like you got Pound, you got Yasuie, you got Whitebeard. He's a parent, okay? You got Whitebeard. You have Otohime. You have Don Quixote Homing. You have Scarlet. You have all these different people. You have Ginny. All these parents just passing away. You have Harold. He was literally the most recent example. And I say recent in our eyes, but not in the history of the Giants and everyone. But there's a lot of parents dying in this story, and a lot more of them have been dying ever since this new saga started up. Stelly, Sabo's adopted brother, his parents mysteriously died. Mysteriously. Right. Mysteriously died. And then adopted into Sabo's family where he could be the noble that they wanted. They didn't die. They were killed off so that Stelly could be in a noble family and then be used to gain even more favor. That was a ploy. Them parents died so that Stelly could get in with a noble. Messed up when you think about it. But overall, I am looking forward to how this story progresses, where it shows Brook, it shows Brook and his time in Esperia, leading up to the moment where he vows to never want to see Shuri again because of her killing Reuven, which I feel there's more to that statement, more to that story than just simply, oh, she just kills him. I feel this is like I said before, I feel this is another Loki situation where something happened that causes her to kill Reuven, but it's not as cut and dry as she simply kills him just because. I feel like there's a outside force that induces such a situation, and thus leads to Shuri being led to Marijois, where she eventually becomes Gunko, He goes by the name Gunko and is now the blade of Emu himself. There is so much here. There is so much more to think of here in relation to how these events can transpire, and also what leads to Asperia being basically wiped off the map. We don't necessarily know the true meaning of this a country that no longer exists. We don't know if it means every single citizen within Asperia dies or is killed off. We don't know if we don't know if the entire nation is razed to the ground, and in its place is just the gaping hole that Leluja was left in after the ancient weapon basically destroyed it. We don't know the setup of what leads to Asperia basically disappearing. We don't know. But what I do know is, for us to be getting these flashbacks, we've gotten quite a few flashbacks. We got Harold's flashback and we got Rox's flashback, leading into the most important God Valley incident that we all wanted more info on. I wonder if Oda may cut back on flashbacks for the next arc. I know it's too soon to say, but we've already had multiple flashbacks in this one arc itself. Multiple already. So it remains to be seen. But also another thing to keep in mind, and you guys mentioned it earlier on, is how soon are we going to see Yorkie? How soon are we going to see Yorkie and then see Brook eventually join the Rumbar Pirates? And then, of course, run into... Ooh, here's something. Here's something. Did we see the events of the Rumbar Pirates fighting another band of pirates, which led to them all being poisoned and then dying? Or did we just hear about it? Because if we just heard about it... Hold on. Hold on. Also, hold on again. I'm looking up the Rumbar Pirates, but also Family got here with food. Let me go ahead and help bring that in. I'll be right back. Right, I'm back. Food is here, and I was talking to family. Sorry about that, everybody. Real quick. Okay, let me come out of here and go to Rumbar Pirates. So if we go to the history of the Rumbar Pirates, am I centered properly? Yeah, I'm centered. If we go to the history of the Rumbar Pirates, let's see, the Promise, Venturing, Florian Triangle. Yeah, yeah, it was in the Florian Triangle. Despite losing half of the crew, oh, wait a minute. Venturing the Grand Line is when things really started to go downhill for the Rumbar. The return was not to be. They traveled far into the Grand Line, experienced its cruel sea and unpredictable weather, but had good times as well. They would also think about Laboon from time to time. Days went by, and at some point, after coming out of a certain forest, Yorkie, their captain, and several of the crew members had contracted an incurable disease. Deciding no one else should be infected, Yorkie traveled away with the sick crew members on their ship and hoped to pass through the calm belt. It was at that point most of them died, which was later reported and led Crocus to believe that they become scared and left through the calm belt. And then the Florian Triangle is when everything really started to end for the Rumbar. Despite losing half of the crew, the remaining Rumbar pirates continued sailing through the Grand Line on a new ship with Brook as their captain. As they traveled through the sea, Brook gained a bounty for himself, and things at first went smoothly for the remaining Rumbar pirates. However, upon entering the Florian Triangle, Brook and his remaining crewmates were attacked by some enemy pirates. A good number of the crew survived the attack, albeit barely, but since the enemy had tainted their weapons with poison and the Rumbar pirate's doctor was killed in the attack, the survivors were slowly dying. Knowing that he had eaten the Yomi Yomi no Mi, Brook suggested to his crew that they should play one last song that would be recorded on a tone dial that they had previously bought from a merchant. Since he would be revived after death, Brook promised that he would take the dial and play it for Laboon to hear. Overjoyed with Brook's proposal, the remaining Rumbar pirates mustered what little strength they had and started singing their favorite song for the last time. Though joyful at recording their song, the remaining Rumbar pirates slowly succumbed to the poison and died one after another. They each fell with smiles on their faces until only Brook was left all alone. With a heavy heart, Brook continued playing alone until he too succumbed to the poison and died. So, what's going to happen in my head is that we could possibly, granted, this is a story mainly to talk about Shuri. So I don't know if we're actually going to reach the point where we get to Yorkie. Now that I think about it, this Brook is bringing up the subject matter of Shuri and the events that transpired with Shuri. So I don't even know if it actually means we're going to make it to the point where he meets Yorkie and becomes a member of the Rumbar Pirates, and thus leading to the events that leads to his death. So I don't even know if we're actually going to get to that point, and if we're just going to focus on Shuri. It's actually anyone's guess if they choose, if Oda chooses to explore that about Brook's history. But I don't know if we're actually going to get there. Seriously, I don't even know if we're actually going to get to the point where we meet Yorkie, if we're just going to focus on Shuri. Huh. And if we don't focus on Yorkie at all and the Rumbar Pirates, then we'll never see the event. We'll truly never see the events where they were all poisoned after going into the Florian Triangle and all of them dying. Because I don't know how relevant that part of Brook's life is going to be. I honestly don't know how relevant that part is going to be to Brook's backstory if it's just talking about Shuri. Unless for some odd reason Oda says like one of the last people that Brook thinks of before he dies is Shuri, and them singing Bink Sake, because Bink Sake is the song they were singing when all the remaining members of the Rumbar Pirates died. So it'd be funny if Oda says like the last person Brook thought of while he's singing Bink Sake is literally the former the princess of the Asperia kingdom where he grew up, and that's when he dies. It would be funny if Oda actually does that. But I don't know if we're actually going to get that far if we're just focusing on Shuri herself. Because for all we know, we could cut off from the point where Shuri gets taken to Marijois, and then we go back to the present, and then we continue on. Because we don't want to spend too much time. Don't want to spend too much time in flashbacks when we have the current predicament of Emu being in Elbaf right now. Where do we truly go after Elbaf? Because this does feel like it could be the final war, especially since Emu is already here in the flesh. The reason why I don't think this is the last time that Emu is going to be facing off against Loki and Luffy is simply because, remember ages ago, when it was said when the Straw Hat Grand Fleet would be involved in a major scandal later on in their lives, but they had no idea. We have not gotten to that point yet. And Oda would not bring that sort of moment up if it wasn't going to have relevance into the future. We also need to remember the mural that depicts what is going to happen in the present day, where we have Luffy, Loki, and all the races of the world going up against a literal monster, a literal demon, if you will. Emu, we haven't reached that point yet, because us having Luffy and Loki fight Emu at this time is not the same as everything transpiring of what's happening in the mural, where all the races together, Fishmen, Tontatas, people from Skypiea, Lunarians, all these different individuals from different walks of life, different races, rallying against Emu. We haven't gotten to that point yet. So this isn't the final, well, this is the start of the end. Emu showing up to try and get, because the thing is, remember, Emu is here to get the giants under his thrall, so he can then use them. This isn't the battle to end all battles. This is literally just the fight. This is just the fight for Elbaf. We don't have the fight for the world yet. This is just a fight to decide the fate of one nation, not the fight to decide the fate of the entire world. The one who will decide the fate of the world is the one who finds the One Piece. The one who finds the One Piece will decide the fate of the world. We haven't gotten there yet. The war for the throne, that's still going. There's no way that this is even close to the final altercation. We still got a lot more loose ends to tie up, a lot more foes to face. So no, this doesn't feel like the final war to me. It feels like the start of what could be the final war, simply because when things do not go in Emu's direction, that's when things are going to be, tallied together and thought of like, okay, we need to do this and we need to do that. We need to get that mother flame going so that way we can have an inexhaustible energy source so we can wipe out every single foe that is in front of us right now. We're not at that point yet. We have no idea about the man with the burn scar who has the last road poneglyph. We got the matter of Blackbeard doing whatever he's doing. We got a matter of Shanks doing whatever he's doing. We got a matter of Buggy and Crocodile and Mihawk doing whatever they're doing. We got the whole matter of the revolutionaries doing whatever they're doing. We got the Holy Knights doing whatever they're doing. We got the elders and Emu doing whatever they're planning. There's a lot of variables that we need to think of. And we also need to think of the other nations who are just been told all this information by Vegapunk. We got to tally all of that together. This is just the start. The fact that Emu showed up shows us just how much of a significant threat and how important it is for Emu to get involved. However, this isn't the moment where Emu decides, this is where I'm going to destroy everything and destroy all of my foes. We're not at that point yet, simply because the Mother Flame is not where it needs to be. The one thing that will help Emu and everyone else under him, the Elders and the Holy Knights, have an inexhaustible energy source to power whatever they need, that's not ready. Therefore, meaning that Emu is not ready to bring things to a close. Sure, Emu says, I shall destroy thee. I shall eliminate thee. If I can't make you my soldiers, then I shall eliminate you right here and now. When Emu fails to do that, that's when things are going to be rearranged. That's when thought process of how we proceed is going to be changed fundamentally. First, Emu's going to recover back at Marijois, because Emu being here physically beneath Marijois in the lower world is already detrimental to his health. this is what we've already known. But once Emu gets back to Marijois, fully healed up, and carefully planning, that's when we're going to start to see some of the final moments that will start to decide, okay, where things are going to go in terms of the final fight for One Piece. And that's just the Celestial Dragon side of things. Everyone else I've mentioned, they have a part to play as well, but we are nowhere near that point. As to where we go after Elbaf is the big question, because Elbaf has been one of the most sought after locations for this story for us fans, and now we're here. We're here now. And we don't, and the scary thing is, wherever we go after this is completely unknown territory that has not been mentioned to us at all. See, we heard about Elbaf at the beginning of the series when Usopp joined the team and said, and after the events of Little Garden, Luffy and Usopp want to go to Elbaf. We've known about Elbaf ever since then, but now, once Elbaf is over, it is literally anyone's guess where we go. And I said this before we even left Egghead. Sure, we have Elbaf, but what happens after Elbaf is a complete unknown to all of us, because the Straw Hats have not said anything about, like, what do we do after Elbaf? Elbaf just happens to be the place that we wanted to go in order to go get safe away from Egghead. But we haven't had a point where it's like, okay, once we rest up at Elbaf, where do we go from there? Because Vegapunk is the one who suggested they go to Elbaf in the first place. Elbaf seems very safe. That's a good direction to go in. Let's go there. Okay, let's go. That wasn't on the destination for the Straw Hat crew. Egghead wasn't even a destination on them. They only went there because they came across Jewelry Bonnie. And they went in that direction. And that's how it went. Happenstance tends to be the locations of where the Straw Hats go to the most. Just coincidences and happenstance. And you also bring up a very good point, D-Train. Gotta get Mad Monk Urouge involved, because he is not only is he the only supernova we know little to nothing about. We know everything else. We know everything else about every other supernova. We know everything about Basil Hawkins, Scratchman Apu, Law, Blackbeard, Luffy, Zoro. We know enough about Jewelry Bonnie. We know enough about Capone. We know enough about D.S. Drake. We know enough about all of them. But we don't know anything about Urouge. And even then, the most movements we know of Urouge was after. No, the most we know about Urouge was literally him praying for Kaido when Kaido decided to try and off himself by jumping off a 10,000 meter tall cloud down to the surface below in the hopes of dying. That's the last time we saw Urouge. And Urouge is also the only supernova who has not encountered a member of the Straw Hats. The only one. Everyone else has spoken or interacted, has fought, or even teamed up with the Straw Hats. Urouge is the only one who has done nothing even remotely close to them. He was already gone for Sabaody before they got fully involved with Kizaru and everybody else. Urouge's part of the story has yet to be told. Yet he's done so much. He literally beat one of the sweet commanders of Big Mom and then dipped. And then he chilling on a sky island and praying for Kaido. And that's the last time we saw of him. We haven't seen him since. There's so many variables for this story that has yet to be brought back. Not only that, we also got to think about the potential of Kid and Law coming back. Even though their ships have been sunk and destroyed, Kid being destroyed, deserved, dude got cocky, Law completely defeated and taken away before Blackbeard could do anything to him. We still don't know what part of the story they have to play in, but it's definitely not now. Right now, it's like Law and Kid do not even matter because their part of the story of One Piece is done for now. Like I said, there's so many variables that we have to go over. before we start thinking like, okay, we're starting to get to the end. The moment we start getting chapters that is featuring more Blackbeard, I I'm kind of scared because featuring multiple chapters with Blackbeard involved means that thing Oda is moving. Was moving it intended for the story to move in that direction. But I say that about every other aspect about One Piece as well. When we start getting multiple chapters of people outside of the Straw Hat crew, if we get chapters like that, that's when you know things are about to pop off. If we shift focus from the Straw Hat crew and move elsewhere. But only time will tell. June has just started, and it looks like we're in the middle of a break. So, this upcoming Sunday will not have a chapter for either One Piece or Sakamoto Days, because it doesn't look like we got chapters for either one of them. So, I get a bit of a rest day, and I only have an episode to react to. I am excited, though, for tomorrow, because that is the state of play. And Friday is the start of Summer Game Fest. There is so many things to enjoy this week, and I can't wait to enjoy them. But as for right now, I feel like May was a very good month for One Piece because we finally got Brook's backstory, and learning more about that is essentially going to write off one thing off of our checklist of what we wanted to learn for the story of One Piece. Overall, I had a wonderful time reading through these chapters, and this is where I'm going to call it for my One Piece reflections for today. Did not think I was going to reach 2 hours and 30 minutes. I thought I was going to try and keep it short, but when I get going talking, I get going. So, everyone who showed up here today, I had a wonderful time reading One Piece again and also talking to you guys about it. And then I'm going to enjoy the rest of my day because I am working on Cash because there's a build for him that people are using to trivialize the new raid bosses that I had a wonderfully long time trying to figure out. But I got a build going that is really actually kind of good right now, and it feels good to mess with it. So I'm going to be messing with that on my off time. And also working on Sandland as well. We'll have a session of Lego Batman later this week where we go through the city and we just explore and start, picking up things that I didn't have a chance to do before. So that will be scheduled. Also got a member summit tomorrow as well. And then later on, a channel update for you guys for June and the stuff we're going to be doing in June. Because this is going to be my Final Fantasy VII month. We will be starting Final Fantasy VII this month. So to everyone, D-Train, Ravi, who else was here? Was it just you two? And Lothar. Even if you guys even if it's just you guys here, that was more than enough. Simply having one person here is more than enough for me. But I had a wonderful time. Hope y'all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Even check out my membership and Patreon because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. And because I know you're coming back anyway. Have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples! Almost forgot that I need this hand in order to hit the button. But yeah, later, peoples!